Which is so exciting. These teams have to come in here and give it their all. have a real nice tempo. Goes baseline, watch out.
Oh, my!
Oh, baby!
All the way down the runway for a big-time throwdown.
That's a lot of fans out there.
Look at that! The drama keeps continuing, Shelly.
This is just brilliant.
He strikes. Starts as you mean to go on.
But this is the danger of the top two guys, and that nuclear weapon that is.
Whoa, hello, goodbye. Score! In the back of the net.
And shoots, score!
Of Serie A action. We'll bring you so much of it here on the zone.
Magnificent. That is tremendous.
Catching up on any NFL game is easier than ever before.
Going deep for it all. Devontae Smith. He has got it. Touchdown.
Your Eagles are world champions again.
The Zone is the home of boxing.
Really spurs you on, gets you going.
Let's make history. Pure power. There's no way back from this, surely.
The following program is recommended for those 16 and over, as it contains sporting violence, possible bad language, and flashing imagery.
This is the moment the world has been waiting for. The judges are ready, the fighters are ready, the boxing world is ready. The fight starts now! Let's go.
How do you like it? On the show.
So aggressive, so focused.
It all comes down to this. With a corner knockdown. Still the undisputed champion of the world. Media workout live on DAZN.
Was the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring. Wait a minute, I just heard a big bang, like something from a monster. Let's go check it out.
He is a generational talent. Pound-for-pound king, the monster.
Picasso!
Speed, he's got explosiveness, he's got that attitude.
Wow.
That's a bad man. Emphatic fashion.
That was way too easy for Naoya Inoue.
Season's beatings, one and all, and welcome inside the Global Theater here in Boulevard City in Riyadh for the media workout ahead of Ring 5, Night of the Samurai. Hello everyone, I am Corey Erdman alongside Ring Senior Insider Mike Coppinger. Pleased to be here with you for the open workouts here in Riyadh. And Mike, as two hardcore boxing fans for a very long time, what better present could there be than to see fighters like Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani in the flesh, but also on a major platform? We remember the days when you had to work pretty hard to see elite Japanese fighters on your screen.
Yeah, Corey, the sickos like you and I were trying to go streaming, you know, shady streaming services. Now we have the Zone showing these good fights. And this is remarkable, really. We have two of the pound-for-pound very best in the world, Junto Nakatani and Naoya Inoue. They're on a collision course, but first they're going to fight here in Riyadh on Saturday. And
of course, our main event, Naoya Inoue taking on Alan Picasso. Inoue right now ranked number 3 in the Ring Magazine pound-for-pound rankings. He's the Ring Magazine champion in his division. And really, I think we're watching, I don't think we're watching, we are watching a generational talent, a guy who, for me, is the most gifted offensive operator I might have ever seen with my 2 eyes.
Absolutely, Corey, and he's an all-time finisher, too. I mean, when this guy has you hurt, He finishes you in explosive fashion. We see it here against Stephen Fulton, a quality fighter. He did it earlier this year against Ramon Cardenas. And what's really amazing to me, Corey, is we have Naoya Inoue making his 4th title defense this year, 4th defense of the Ring Magazine title. If he's successful as expected, he'll be the first fighter since the great Larry Holmes to defend the Ring Magazine Championship 4 times in a calendar year.
Yeah, you have to put him in the argument for one of the great years of all time. Of course, all due respect to Harry Greb and Henry Armstrong, guys that could fight a lot more often than we can presently, but in terms of the modern era, this is about as good as we've ever seen. In terms of the schedule he's cutting, what he's been doing, and again, talent level is just off the charts.
Talent level off the charts and activity level off the charts right now too. I mean, most of these guys are fighting once a year, right? Especially guys that are making serious money like Inoue. And I asked Inoue earlier this week why. He said, I love boxing. So, and it shows in the way he fights.
All right, let's take a look at the Ring Magazine rankings at 122. Of course, Inoue, the reigning champion, 31-0. But again, you don't want to underestimate Alan Picasso, sitting at number 4 in the ring rankings as well. Obviously, with how great Inoue is, and he is a monstrous favorite, but Picasso, a very, very solid top 5 fighter divisionally.
Picasso, a very talented guy, tall for the division, lanky, and anytime there were these top 25, under 25 lists, Picasso was always there. What concerns me for Picasso is he's never fought somebody that's really in the top 15 even. Now he's going all the way to the generational level. He didn't really have the preparation for this fight. When you get an opportunity like this, you can't say no, right, Corey?
Yeah, and I think for Picasso, remember, this is a fight that is obviously made for this weekend. But, Mike, as you know, this has been rumored for a little over a year. Picasso's been sitting in the WBC rankings, kind of waiting for this type of opportunity. So in speaking to Picasso, and this is a guy who is who's studying to be a neuroscientist, right? You give this guy a long time to study something, there's something to that.
Yeah, and again, when you're talking about a taller fighter, he's going to have angles on those shots. And, you know, Inoue's preparing for another tall, lanky fighter, so this makes a lot of sense for Inoue. Junto Nakatani, of course, in the co-main on that collision course, like we mentioned, with Inoue. And I think Inoue's going to feel right at home. We even have the cherry blossoms here, Corey. So no right. Stone left unturned.
Yeah, cherry blossom blazer as well. Perfect segue as well. Of course, Nakatani taking on Sebastian Hernandez in the co-feature, with all eyes on that potential clash at the Tokyo Dome next year, next May, between Inoue and Nakatani. But Nakatani entering a new weight class for the first time.
Yeah, and Corey, I think Nakatani doesn't really get enough credit. He really flies under the radar. He's been fighting in Naoya Inoue's shadow for a long, long time. If Inoue wasn't there, I think Nakatani would get much more spotlight. He's a big-time puncher. I mean, that knockout he had of Andrew Maloney years ago, you see him right here against Nishida. In his last fight, you know, he wins the Ring Magazine Championship, doesn't defend it, of course, but I think Nakatani is also an elite fighter, and he can also be a generational great when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and Nakatani, going back to that Nishida fight, where, of course, he won the Ring Magazine title, which was vacant at the time. He had to let that go to move up to 122. For my money, Mike, that was his meanest performance. His coach, Rudy Hernandez, told him in round 1, go out looking for the knockout. Show him that you're in there with a pound-for-pound caliber fighter, and I think that there's a chance we see the same type of performance on Saturday.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because we're calling this Night of the Samurai. It really could be Japan versus Mexico. The top 3 fights feature 2 boxing-crazed countries. And Japan is, you know, you never put Japan on the same level as Mexico, but over these last couple of years, we've seen a real revolution from Japan, right?
Yeah, well, we're going to take a look at the Ring Magazine pound-for-pound rankings, because it is a rarity to see 2 fighters in the top 6, top 7 of the pound-for-pound rankings on the same card, which of course speaks to the depth of our event this weekend at Night of the Samurai. You see Inoue at number 3, Nakatani at number 7. But the other storyline here, Mike, is what will happen at the top of these pound-for-pound rankings. This is a very temporary ranking because Terrence Crawford has announced his retirement. So do you think there's a possibility that Inoue could move to number 1 with the right type of performance this weekend?
I think no question. I mean, we've seen over the last couple of years, right, Corey? Anytime Inoue fights or Usyk fights or Crawford fights, there's like a lot of recency bias. Guys go up, guys go down. It's kind of like, what have you done for me lately? So if Inoue could get Picasso out of there in an explosive fashion, I think there's going to be a lot of favor for him at the top of that list.
So an explosive card coming your way this weekend. Let's take a look at what is on tap as we start with a super bantamweight showdown between Reito Tsutsumi and Leobardo Quintana, kicking off the action on Saturday. And then undefeated lightweight sensation Taiga Imanaga looks to move to 10-0 when he takes on Eridson Garcia. The amazing boy, Kenshiro Teraji, is back in action and moving up in weight as he challenges Leobardo Garcia for the IBF Super Flyweight title. As mentioned, Junto Nakatani makes his debut at Super Bantamweight with a tricky task against fellow undefeated knockout artist Sebastian Hernandez. And of course, the main event sees pound-for-pound superstar Naoya Inoue defend his undisputed status at 122 pounds against Mexico's Alan Picasso. And with that, we are ready to see the fighters throw hands for the first time this week. So to formally start the media workout, here is your Riyadh season MC, Mr. Thomas Triber.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the media workout for the Ring 5, Night of the Samurai, this Saturday, December 27th, from the Mohammed Abdul Arena in Riyadh, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We would first like to give a special thank you to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and Chairman of the General Entertainment Authority and Saudi Boxing Federation, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. This event is being brought to you by Riyadh Season, Ring Magazine, Sella, and Eddie Hearn for Matchroom Boxing. Along with their premium partners, Saudi Tourism Authority, STC, Saudi National Bank, Dr. Suleiman Al Habib Medical Group, and Saudi Airlines. Their strategic partners, Mayar United, Arroyo Cruises, Sadia, Lucid Motors, SHG, and Azure. Their main partners, Pepsi and Arena Fitness Innovation, and their commercial partner, Prime. This event will be broadcast live in Japan on Lemino and worldwide on DAZN by now at DAZN.com. Let's now get the media workout started. Our first two fighters competing Saturday in a scheduled 8-round super bantamweight contest. Let's first welcome from Mexicali, Baja California, Mexico. His professional record, 12 wins, just 1 defeat. 5 of his 12 wins come by way of knockout. Here is Leobardo El Chino Quintana.
So here comes Leobardo Quintana, the 23-year-old from Mexicali, Baja California, Mexico. Last saw him scoring a 6-round unanimous decision victory over Fernando Samara in September of this year. And Mike, kind of an unthinkable opportunity for a guy like Quintana, who's been fighting exclusively on club shows in Mexico, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call and you're on the biggest stage you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy, right, Corey? And Reito Tsutsumi, who we're going to see just in a few minutes here, is a serious talent. He's one of Turki Al-Sheikh's favorites, ring ambassador, and his brother Reito Tsutsumi, unfortunately, suffered a fractured orbital, serious injury, of course, in sparring. Was supposed to be fighting for his first world title against Jazza Dickens, so we only have 5 fights on the card now rather than 6, but big opportunity here against Tsutsumi.
Quintana, also from a fighting family, is the younger brother of former fringe welterweight contender Oliver Quintana, who we saw on ESPN against Christopher Guerrero. He spent time training with Joel Diaz for a period of time, but you see Leobardo with his trainer, Sergio Checo Ortega. And this is one of those interesting kind of tests for a fighter like Tsutsumi, Mike, because Tsutsumi, obviously 3-0. He's looked terrific, particularly in his last 2 outings. But you have a guy in Quintana with significantly more professional experience. He's going to bring that level of toughness and that endurance that has come with the experience that he has. And we've seen instances like this where decorated amateurs take a jump a little bit too soon against fighters like Quintana, and sometimes that apple cart can be tipped over.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw, right, Reito made his pro debut earlier this year in the Times Square card in May. That was a tough opponent in his first fight, went the distance, and then they kind of said, hey, let's slow down a little bit, and he got 2 easy early knockouts after that. So not a lot of experience from Reito. I think he's fought, maybe 10 rounds total, less. And Quintana, if he can get an upstart here, he's going to get something big up next.
Yeah, we've seen in this very venue where the WBC Grand Prix was, where elite amateurs take a guy like Mujibio Tursunov, who entered that tournament. When he entered the tournament, he was a top 3 welterweight in the world as an amateur, but he didn't win the tournament, right? There's something to be said for what you learn with professional experience, and Quintana obviously is bringing that into our opening contest on Saturday.
Yeah, you see that he has Chino. We'll see if he punches like Chino Maidana. I'm not sure about that, but
right.
He has the nickname.
Looking to bring that kind of attitude into this fight as he trains at the Crea Gym back home in Mexicali. This fight's scheduled for 8 rounds, so another thing to consider for Tsutsumi, getting stretched out a little bit more, trying to test that endurance and mental endurance as well.
Yeah, and look, you see the big smile on Quintana's face, right? He knows the kind of opportunity he has here. I mean, it's got to be a big joy for him to get over to fight in Riyadh, go all the way around the world. Riyadh's becoming a mecca of boxing, really. See all the big shows we've had this year and last year. And Tsutsumi, again, big-time talent, but we don't know just yet. Hayato, of course, his brother, is more advanced, was going to be fighting for a title. But if Reito can blast through Quintana and get a couple wins next year, I would not be surprised to see Reito fighting for a title in 2027.
Thank you very much to Leobardo El Chino Quintana.
So Leobardo Quintana wrapping up his media workout, shaking out for the first time here in Riyadh. We've seen him at the hotel gym already. He's been basically in the gym since the second he landed. So Quintana taking it seriously, a big opportunity for him this weekend.
And now let's welcome to the ring, from Tokyo, Japan. He had a stellar amateur career, and now as a Ring Magazine ambassador and professional, he is undefeated with 3 wins. 2 of his 3 wins come by way of knockout. Here is Reito Tsutsumi.
So one of the hottest prospects in boxing, Reito Tsutsumi, making his way to the ring. The 23-year-old from Tokyo. Of course, we saw him debut on the Ring Extravaganza in Times Square, and Mikey's basically only been featured on mega events thus far. Of course, Shiraz Berlanga, Canelo Crawford, that Times Square card, so a lot of eyeballs on Reito Tsutsumi already.
Yeah, he's getting a ton of exposure, and Reito trying to make the most of it. Explosive puncher, sets up his shots really well. And, Corey, I spoke to Reito earlier this year. Favorite anime, One Piece. Also one of my favorites, so he has good taste.
Okay. I'm an Ippo man myself.
I love Ippo.
But I'm also a Ring Magazine man, much like the Ring Magazine ambassador Reito Tsutsumi who's in the ring right now, and it's only fitting that we bring in the CEO of Ring Magazine, Rick Reno. What's going on, Rick?
Well, Corey, this is a very interesting card. We got a lot of live dogs, interesting main event, 2 unbeatens in the co-feature. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an upset in one of these fights, maybe more than one upset.
Now, we're looking at, as mentioned, Reito Tsutsumi, one of the ambassadors for Ring Magazine, and he's been taking a path that Japanese prospects prior to him haven't taken. They're usually built up in Japan, and then they take them on the road and give them exposure elsewhere. He's been put on the global stage right from the beginning. What is it that the ring saw in Reito to make that decision?
Well, Reito was an exceptional amateur, And I think when he wanted to turn pro, he wanted to take a different path. Like you noted, he didn't want to just build up his career in Japan, eventually become a star, and then come over to America. He wanted to do it the other way, where he gets all the exposure in America, Riyadh, maybe the UK, and then come back as a solidified fighter to Japan.
And Mike, you know, you and I were talking about this. I mean, it's just a new era in Japanese boxing. We all remember when fights from Japan were not particularly accessible. You had to trade tapes. You had to find other means to get these fights. But this is a changing of the guard to see fighters like this start their career the way that Reito is.
Yeah, and like we said, Reito, you know, he fought on the Times Square show in May. That was his pro debut. He fights again in July on another ring show, and then he fought on the Canelo Crawford undercard in a stadium for 70,000 plus. So Reito, when he's ready to finally fight for a title, I don't think he's going to be fazed by it at all.
Reito Tsutsumi wrapping up his workout as we send it back to Thomas Tribe.
Our next two fighters competing Saturday in a scheduled 10-round lightweight contest. We will first welcome a native of Santo Domingo in la República Dominicana, now fighting out of Houston, Texas, USA. He brings a professional record of 22 wins, just 1 defeat. 14 of his 22 wins come by way of knockout. He is the current WBO and ABO champion. Here is Eridson Garcia.
So here comes Eridson Garcia, a massive opportunity for him, and somewhat of a short notice step in for Eridson, the guy who's been calling for this type of opportunity for quite some time, Mike, and the biggest opportunity of his young career.
Yeah, and you know, Dominican Republic has not produced that many great fighters over the years. Obviously, the best one right now is Carlos Adames. Eridson Garcia, if he could score an upset here, he could join Adames on that small list of fighters from the Dominican and are making noise on the world level.
Of course, coming off a second-round knockout win over Brian Pava in Colombia last month. We're taking on Taiga Imanaga this weekend at Night of the Samurai. And Rick, this is also indicative of what we're seeing more and more with these Riyadh season cards. Putting a guy like Imanaga in with Eridson Garcia this young in his career, probably not something we would have seen in recent years.
Well, the one thing you could see with the Japanese fighters, and it's more common than it is in the United States or even in the UK, they fast-track their prospects. It's either sink or swim. They're not afraid to put a guy like Taiga in with a tough opponent like this. Even Inoue was fast-tracked, Nakatani was fast-tracked, and even Reito is facing a guy that's 12-1. I mean, they're not afraid to fast-track their prospects. If they see the talent, they're not going to wait till fight 15 or fight 20 to put them in with a real guy or a guy that could test them. They'll do it early on so they know exactly what they're working with.
Yeah, and to put that in perspective, remember, Taiga is a guy who had the Japanese lightweight title, left it behind, was originally going to fight a guy who was ranked number 3 by a sanctioning body and is still facing a world-ranked fighter in his first step outside of Japan.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, when you present an opponent, a tough opponent, a ranked opponent, even a world champion, their handlers don't say no. They just say how much. You know, so they're ready to fight anybody. Even Kenshiro, coming off a loss, is stepping in with a world champion at a higher weight. These guys are from Japan, the top guys, the rising prospects, the top contenders. They're not afraid to test themselves.
Well, speaking of the top guys in Japan, before we get you out of here, Rick, we want to ask you about the two main fights, obviously, Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani, and the possibility of that showdown at the Tokyo Dome. For a lot of fight fans, a dream matchup in a dream location.
I mean, if that fight comes together, both guys have to win on Saturday. It could be, you know, one of the biggest fights ever in Japanese boxing history. And, you know, Inoue's in a tough test. Inoue's gone down in 2 of his last few fights. Picasso, you have to say, is a better fighter than the guys that dropped Inoue in his recent fights. If there's ever a time when a guy's going to go in there full of confidence, undefeated, thinks he could take Inoue down, it's right now.
So we'll see that mega fight under siege this weekend here in Riyadh. Rick Reino, thank you so much for coming up here. It's been about 2 decades in the making for all three of us to be on camera together.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. The CEO of Ring Magazine, Rick Reino, as Eridson Garcia continuing his workout here.
Thank you very much to Eridson Garcia. And now let's welcome to the ring, from Osaka, Japan, undefeated with 9 wins. 5 of his 9 wins come by way of knockout. He is the current Japanese champion. Here is Taiga Imanaga.
So Taiga Imanaga makes his way into the ring, the 9-0 prospect from Tokuhama, Kanagawa, Japan. Last saw him scoring a near shutout unanimous decision victory over Yudai Murakami in September of this year in Nagoya. And as mentioned, Mike, he won the Japanese lightweight title in that fight and then decided, I'm going to leave it behind. I want to go after world-ranked opponents immediately.
Yeah, and it's really a refreshing philosophy, Corey. You know, this is going to be his 10th pro fight. You know, we've seen a lot of these guys, in America especially, babied up until their 20th or 25th pro fight, when I think it's really unnecessary. Taiga, I think he's going to be a world champion in the not too distant future, maybe even next year. And when you see him in there, he's really smooth with his movements. Fast hands, combination puncher, and he can really crack too.
Well, as the media workouts continue here in Riyadh, a reminder that it's not just live action we have here on DAZN.
The Locker Room, the new home of DAZN's boxing content. All your big hitters, all in one place.
I am not going to stop until I am pulled off of this guy.
The Locker Room takes you further than the ring.
Daniel, don't disrespect me. Daniel, don't disrespect me. I'll put this chair.
Where rivals collide before the bell.
I personally think you're a bit of a don't really like you.
Where legends are eternalized.
Welcome on board the rivalry line.
And prospects rise.
I do not want to be average. I fear being average.
More exclusive content than ever before.
Look at that blood. You remember what's coming.
Welcome to Inside the Ring, boxing's official show of record. I'm your host, Max Keller.
Where boxing lives, breathes, and never stops.
I never thought being with Matchroom I'd be doing stuff like that.
Weekly content from all your favorite creators, promoters, and influencers. The Locker Room, only on DAZN, the global home of boxing.
Get in the mood for Ring 5 by delving into the fight camps. There are 3 episodes of On the Ground available now in the Locker Room, a new dedicated section of the DAZN app, which also includes our weekly shows Unwrapped and Mike Coppinger's Inside the Ring.
That's right, Corey.
Thank you very much to Taiga Imanaga.
Step up for Taiga Imanaga, stepping up onto the world level this weekend. An audacious step for Imanaga, who has been called the future of Japanese boxing.
Our next 2 fighters competing Saturday in a scheduled 12-round contest, and it will be for the IBF Super Flyweight Championship of the world. Let's first welcome the challenger from Kyoto, Japan. His professional record, 25 wins, 2 defeats. 16 of his 25 wins come by way of knockout. A former Ring Magazine champion and former 2-division world champion. Let's welcome Kenshiro, the amazing boy, Teraji.
So the amazing boy, Kenshiro Teraji, back in action. Teraji was upset by Ricardo Sandoval, a 12-round split decision in July in Yokohama, where he lost his world title. He's a former unified flyweight and 2-time light flyweight champion, 2-division unified world champion, a former Ring Magazine champion. Mike, as you said, in all likelihood, this is a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, no question, Corey. I have a vote. I'll be voting for him, certainly.
Likewise.
And not just, a future Hall of Famer, but the Ring Magazine Awards coming up soon. He has a real shot to win Fight of the Year. That fight in March against Inoue was incredible. Non-stop action, and then he gets to finish in round 12 of a back-and-forth brutal battle.
Yeah, and that was one of those fights where if you were to script it for a movie, someone might say, that can't really be real.
Yeah.
It can't end that way, can it?
I mean, that was a bloody, brutal affair, and Kenshiro, you just wonder how much he has left. He's been in so many wars. You mentioned the upset loss to Sandoval, who's also a quality fighter. And like we mentioned with Imanaga, right? Imanaga stepping right up. Same kind of philosophy here, I think, with Teraji. He's not taking a step back. We always see in America guys lose. They have to get, repackaged, 2 easy wins. He's going straight into another tough fight.
Yeah, and Kenshiro has talked about the fact that he doesn't think that Sandoval loss has to do with an erosion of his skills so much as his trainer, Kenta Kato, saying they just had the wrong strategy. They said they wanted to focus solely on 1-2 punches, and they described it as getting lost on a dead-end road in that fight. They feel that he'll get back to his fighting identity in this fight now that he's moving up in weight.
And now that he's moving up in weight, he wins this fight as expected. You could see a fight between him and Bam Rodriguez next year. I spoke to Robert Garcia, trainer of Bam, and he said, hey, we want a shot at the winner of this fight to become undisputed. And if not, because there's going to be a mandatory, they'll just move up to 118. Could you imagine the warfare of Bam and Teraji?
Yeah, 2 of the most decorated fighters of the modern era, and both fighters want it. Kenshiro has talked about wanting that fight against Bam as well. We'll see if Teraji could pick up yet another world title on Saturday.
And now let's welcome the defending world champion from Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. He brings a professional record consisting of 23 wins, 6 defeats, 2 draws, 13 wins come by way of knockout. He is the reigning and defending IBF Super Flyweight Champion of the world, Willie El Copala Garcia.
Well, one of the sport's most unlikely world champions, the IBF Super Flyweight champ, Leobardo Garcia, who at 35 years of age scored a 12-round split decision victory over Rene Calixto to win that title in May of this year. A rematch from their first bout. They fought to a draw. Many people thought the dream would be over, but Leobardo Garcia and his manager, Sean Gibbons, they still believed, Mike, and he got the job done finally.
Yeah, Sean Gibbons always finds these guys that are just rough and tumble characters. I mean, not many times you see first-time champions with 6 losses. So Garcia is certainly here to win, even if he's going to be a big underdog. And none other than Frank Smith right here knows too well about fighting Sean Gibbons fighters, right?
I know. Sean is everywhere, isn't he? He's everywhere with his flag. You can't get rid of Sean. He's going to be in the sport till he's about 100.
I think so. Obviously, Sean's had names like Manny Pacquiao, but in talking to him earlier today, he kind of made the comparison between Leobardo and Orlando Salido. And you and I have spent a lot of time together in Mexico, where there always seem to be those diamonds in the rough to be extracted.
For sure, and look, this is the opportunity for him. He's obviously world champion, but to come here on a card like this, I mean, look at the show, look at the setup, to come and change his life completely. He's won the title, but if he can go from here, the fights that are there for him would just be huge. And it's amazing to see. That's why we love boxing, you know, people getting opportunities and changing their life.
Yeah, and think about the talent that you guys at Matchroom have extracted by going down to Mexico, right? I mean, your roster has been bolstered significantly with those trips.
Yeah, for sure, and I think sometimes the records, like his record, I think 6 losses, sometimes early on in their careers, they're put in such hard fights that we sit there early stages of fighters' careers and you see the opponents they're in with. You're not surprised they lose because they're tested at the early stage, unlike some, you know, American fighters maybe, or British fighters would be, and that's why the records are sometimes a little bit skewed.
Yeah, and it can be a little bit backwards. And Mike, in Mexico, sometimes it works the other way, where you have to earn your way out of that opponent status, rather than kind of dropping down to it after your prospecthood has been shed, right?
Yeah, especially fighting in Tijuana. You know, many big-time brawls there. And Frank Smith, we were talking earlier before you came on, Leobardo, the winner of this fight, is going to be the last title missing from your fighter, Bam Rodriguez, for Undisputed. Do we see Bam next year gets the winner, or is the mandatory going to be in the way?
Look, that's the fight we want to make. You know, Bam is focused on the biggest fights in the sport. He wants to become undisputed. I think the IBF look like they're going to order the mandatory. If they do that, I doubt that Bam will wait around. In truth, he wants big fights. But let's see, if we can make another undisputed champion in the sport, that's what we want to see.
So Leobardo Garcia wrapping up his workout as we send it back down to Thomas Freiberg.
Ladies and gentlemen, our co-main event this Saturday, it will be a battle of the undefeated. 12 rounds scheduled in the super bantamweight division. Let's first welcome from La Zona Norte, Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. Undefeated with 20 wins, 18 of his 20 wins come by way of knockout. Here is Sebastian Logan Hernandez.
Well, nearly unthinkable opportunity for this man, Sebastian Logan Hernandez. We last saw scoring a 10-round unanimous decision over Azat Hovhannisyan in May of this year. Now, Hernandez has been really honest about his preparation for this fight. Frank, he was joking, and he said when he was watching Junto Nakatani over the years, he said, well, I'm really glad he's not in my weight class, because I really wouldn't want to fight that guy. Now he has to fight that guy.
Yeah, I mean, but this is, again, I go back to the point, an opportunity here. He can upset all the cards. You know, there's all this talk at the minute about Nakatani fighting Inoue. We've seen it time and time again where there's talk about what's in the future. This is his time to upset, you know, upset all of the future plans for everyone. And he'll be using that as he goes into this fight.
Well, those future plans, excuse me, that you allude to, obviously, that's Inoue and Nakatani at the Tokyo Dome in May. Your thoughts on this main event and getting to see the monster on this stage?
Yeah, look, Inoue's a special fighter. We actually had Akhmadaliev boxed him in September in Japan. He's a superstar of the sport. He's cool, calm, composed. Someone said earlier, I think he's had 26 world title fights, which when you look at him, you see, look at his age, he's unrivaled, really, and that's a huge fight. Tokyo Dome would be unbelievable for that. But they both got to get through Saturday. They've got 2 fighters against them who are going to come and bring it. Again, like I say, they can both come in and upset everyone's plans. But what a fight that would be if we could see it.
It would be an extraordinary scene. Frank, so thank you so much for joining us, and we'll have to have you back here tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right. Frank Smith, the CEO of Matchroom. Sebastian Hernandez continues to shake out in the ring here. Hernandez with a gaudy knockout record, Mike, and obviously he's thinking knockout in this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's a hard-nosed Mexican. The Mexicans don't know how to fight any other way, right, Corey? He's going to apply pressure nonstop. But Junto Nakatani is no stranger to Mexican boxing. Rudy Hernandez is his trainer, Mexican fighter, the brother of the late former champion Genaro Hernandez. And when I asked Junto Nakatani who's his favorite fighter of all time, you know, I was expecting he'd be fighting Arada or Kameda. He said Benito Lopez.
Sebastian Logan Hernandez.
So a life-changing opportunity for that man, Sebastian Logan Hernandez, as he takes on the Big Bang, Junto Nakatani.
And now let's welcome to the ring, from Sagamihara, Kanagawa, Japan. Undefeated with 31 wins, 24 of his 31 wins come by way of knockout. He is an undefeated former Ring Magazine champion, a former 3-division world champion, and regarded as pound for pound, one of the top boxers in the world. Let's welcome Junto Big Bang Nakatani.
The Big Bang, Junto Nakatani, one of the most fearsome punchers in the sport of boxing, moving up to 122 in this fight to face the man you just saw inside the ring and coming off a devastating 6th-round knockout victory over Yosuke Nishida in June to unify 2 bantamweight titles. And I said this earlier in the broadcast, Mike, but to me, that was the meanest that we've ever seen Junto Nakatani. Just came out absolutely on fire and with a smile on his face while he was doing it.
Yeah, Junto reminds me so much of another great from Asia, Manny Pacquiao. Always smiling on his way to the ring, but once he walks through those ropes, it is just brutality. And when I was with Nakatani, you see him smiling right now, I said to him, what's your favorite English phrase or word? He said, happy.
It makes sense. I mean, he seems to thrive within the violence, and I think he was loving the fact that Rudy Hernandez told him in that Nishida fight, hey, go out and try and knock him out in the first round. Go show him that he's in there with a pound-for-pound superstar.
Yeah, and again, we said it before, but Nakatani, I think he'd be getting so much more attention in Japan and around the world if it wasn't for Inoue fighting in his shadow. I mean, this is a guy who's pound for pound, right, number 7 with the ring. Just won the Ring Magazine Championship in June. Isn't going to make any defenses, of course, but that's because he's going for a much bigger prize, moving up to 122 for a shot at Inoue, but he has to get past Hernandez first, and I think that he's going to have a lot of preparation fighting Mexican fighters. I actually watched him spar Ramon Cardenas, who dropped Inoue earlier this year.
Yeah, as you mentioned, just an incredible hybrid of boxing cultures in a sense. Junto Nakatani. With that arrow straight precision that we've come to know from Japanese fighters, but also with that Mexican style inside game and that toughness, of course, honed with Rudy Hernandez. One of the most exciting and best fighters in the world. It's a combination that doesn't always go together, Mike.
No, he's a really special fighter, and he's a special person, too. Talking about a guy who left the confines of Tokyo at age 15 to chase his dream and train in Los Angeles. Actually trains in Little Tokyo. I asked him about the sushi. He said, it's no comparison to the sushi at home.
The Big Bang back in action this weekend.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Ring 5 Night of the Samurai, highly anticipated main event this Saturday is scheduled for 12 rounds, and it will be for the Ring Magazine, IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO Undisputed Super Bantamweight Championships of the World. Let's first welcome to the ring the challenger from Del Barrio Bravo de Tepito, la Ciudad de Mexico. Undefeated with 32 wins. He has 1 draw. 17 of his 32 wins come by way of knockout. Ranked number 4 by Ring Magazine, he is a former WBC silver champion, and this Saturday, the undefeated world title challenger, here is Alan David El Rey Picasso.
Oh, here comes Alan Picasso. You hear the chants starting here in Riyadh for Picasso. Some fans have made their way over to support this man who is setting aside his dreams of being a Nobel Prize winning neuroscientist to try to win what I would declare the Nobel Prize of boxing by beating maybe the best fighter on the planet.
I'm fairly positive, Corey, that's the first time I've ever heard that. Neuroscience. Wow, so. But Alan Picasso, a very confident fighter. You see him, he's actually fought a Japanese fighter in his last fight, Kameda, scored a victory there, and now he's fighting a much different Japanese fighter in the all-time great Naoya Inoue. But again, Picasso at 122, he's a big guy for the division, 5'8", he's long, and this guy can punch as well. I think the odds are being a little unfair to him.
Yeah, some people kind of compare him stylistically to sort of a version of a Rafael Espinoza, right? Maybe not quite as explicitly aggressive as Espinoza, but he has those types of dimensions.
And you mentioned Espinoza. Espinoza's a guy that was given no shot virtually when he fought Robeisy Ramirez, scored an upset, and now he's considered one of the very best fighters in the world pound for pound, so you just never know.
Oh, look at the menacing stare on the monster watching his opponent, Alan Picasso. And this is something culturally, Mike, that we see in Japan, where they'll do media workouts at each fighter's gym, and the opposing camp is there to comment on it as well. So in a way, watching intently as Picasso shakes out.
It's funny, the dichotomy between Inoue and his potential future opponent, Nakatani. Nakatani always smiling, Inoue all business, menacing as you said. So you like to see him scouting his opponent. I always hate when you hear American fighters say, hey, you go, what did you think when you watch him on tape? Oh, I don't watch tape. Either A, they're lying, which I hope, or B, they're just not doing their homework.
I think a lot of fighters thought it sounded cool when Floyd Mayweather said it, right?
Right. Like a lot of things, yeah.
Well, Picasso obviously on the biggest stage of his young career, but he's no stranger to big stages. Of course, having fought on undercards beneath Canelo Alvarez, but beneath Floyd Mayweather, albeit in the Gotti III undercard. But Picasso, again, no stranger to the spotlight, but by far taking the biggest step up of his career. But of course, it's time. 32-0-1, as we've talked about earlier on the broadcast. He's kind of been rumored for this opportunity, sitting in the upper reaches of the sanctioning body rankings for a little over a year now.
Yeah, he was expecting, Corey, to get that shot at Inoue this summer. Ended up collapsing at the 11th hour, and then Ramon Cardenas steps in and then knocks down Inoue in one of the best fights of the year. So, Picasso, I wouldn't count him out from at least giving Inoue a tough fight. Inoue has been dropped twice now over the last few fights, and that was both times against Mexicans. Luis Neri and then Ramon Cardenas, a Mexican-American.
Of course. Well, and Picasso has spent time in the Alfredo Caballero camp, so learning from, kind of one of those modern boxing geniuses, I always like to say, Juan Francisco Estrada. If you're going to pick up tips from someone in and around this weight neighborhood, Estrada, a pretty good guy to learn from. The very enthusiastic supporter group for Alan Picasso as he poses for the media here. Again, had some struggles against Konosuke Kameda last time out. It wouldn't be the first time that we'd see a fighter, Mike, kind of struggle in that tune-up fight, shall we call it, and then arrive when it comes time for the big fight.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't discount that. You always think back to Evander Holyfield, right? When he fought against Bobby Ches, and he was kind of counted out.
Of course, right?
Too. So, yeah, Picasso already knew he was fighting Inoue then. Maybe he overlooked Kameda. Certainly he's not overlooking Naoya Inoue. And, look, again, even though he has the height and reach advantage, I think we're going to see him go right after Inoue and try to fight him on the inside.
And now let's welcome the defending world champion from Yokohama, Japan. Undefeated with 31 wins, 27 of his 31 wins come by way of knockout. One of the best pound-for-pound boxers in the world. He is a 4-division world champion, a 2-division undisputed world champion, and this Saturday, the reigning and defending Ring Magazine, IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO undisputed super bantamweight champion of the world. Here is Naoya, the Monster Inoue.
here comes the monster, Naoya Inoue, one of the very best in the world. A lot of people feel that he is the best in the world, and Mike, we had this discussion earlier, does have a viable chance depending on how impressive he could be, and of course assuming he wins against Alan Picasso, to become #1 pound for pound according to Ring Magazine for the second time.
Yeah, and he's also fighting Corey to become the greatest fighter ever from Japan. Right now that's fighting Harada, but Inoue is certainly going to be in that conversation, especially if he can get past Picasso and then, of course, past Nakatani.
Of course, we last saw Inoue with that 12-round unanimous decision win over MJ Akhmadaliev. That was in September of this year in Japan, where we saw somewhat of a different version of Inoue. And he said that he explicitly went out there to box a little more, to show the boxing public that he could do it, but also MJ Akhmadaliev in Matchroom, they were talking a little trash, weren't they? I think that maybe got to Inoue a little bit.
Yeah, that was disappointing. Akhmadaliev talked a lot of trash, and then he didn't really show up to fight, I didn't think. You know, he landed a big shot in like the last 20 seconds. Definitely buzzed Inoue, but that was too little too late.
Fighting for the 4th time this year. Of course, he stopped Ramon Cardenas, Yi-Jun Kim. He outpointed MJ Akhmadaliev, as we pointed out earlier here tonight, trying to tie Larry Holmes for most defenses of that Ring Magazine title in a year.
Pretty nice company there,
yeah.
Larry Holmes.
Not bad.
And again, we mentioned Naoya Inoue. He's been hurt a couple of times. Again, hurt and against Akhmadaliev, albeit in the closing moments of the fight, dropped by Cardenas, and dropped last year by Luis Neri. So you wonder if, after all these tough fights, and he's moving up in weight time after time again, if he's slowing down a bit. The offense certainly hasn't slowed down at all, but you just wonder.
Yeah, and in a way, when he's been asked about that, he said that that's because he's maybe got a little over-aggressive at times that caused those openings. He said that there are some aspects of the younger version of him that he thinks were a little bit better, that the younger version of him might not have been overconfident the way that he is now, that maybe how good, how dominant he's been for so long maybe got to his head a little bit, but he feels that he's kind of ironed out those wrinkles coming into this fight.
Yeah, and you have to figure he's going to want to put on a show, especially when Nakatani's fighting before him. I actually asked Nakatani, are you going to watch the fight ringside in your trunks? And he said, that's my plan. I have to get him out of there early. That way we can go sit down and watch Inoue go to work.
Thank you very much to Naoya, the Monster Inoue!
Well, the Ring 5, a night of the Samurai, brings the curtain down on an incredible year here on DAZN, and 2026 promises more of the same.
Which one of these two lions will leave Wembley as the face of English boxing? It's over! There's no way back from this! Let's make history! Nothing comes close to what we are witnessing here. The big left hand unbelievable! Is Itauma the heir apparent? It's the biggest win of his professional life. Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury lock horns all over again. And he's just done it! Round 1, destruction! He's up on his feet! They stop the fight! Virgil Ortiz just like that! These shots are really sweet from Stevenson. No love lost between these two. Easy.
But I'm gonna show the world I'm the best in the world. I got something for you.
Dimitri Bivol, Archer, better be the undisputed light heavyweight champion and seal his place in history.
Well, the best way to see everything DAZN has to offer is with our new Ultimate Plan. Unsurpassed value for fight fans across the globe who want the best in boxing on their terms. Join Ultimate and get a minimum of 12 pay-per-view events every year included at no extra cost on top of DAZN's unrivaled schedule of over 185 fight nights a year. It's undisputed value. Watch the biggest fights featuring the biggest stars only on DAZN. And we welcome you back here in Riyadh. Corey Erdman, Mike Coppinger. We just wrapped up the open workout for Night of the Samurai this weekend. And speaking of big stars here on DAZN, two of the biggest in the world in action this weekend, Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani, both hoping to be victorious to set up a mega fight at the Tokyo Dome next year. Let's get some final thoughts on that co-feature first. Junto Nakatani taking on Sebastian Hernandez. Nakatani moving up in weight so he can get himself acclimated to where he will be fighting Naoya Inoue at. And it'll be a little bit interesting in terms of a physical test, Mike, because Nakatani very much used to towering over fighters and being able to use that size and length. And as he moves up, he will have to make some adaptations.
Yeah, and these are not tune-up fights, Corey. These are legitimate tests. You know, Sebastian Hernandez, just like Alan Picasso, both rated in the top 10 by Ring Magazine in their respective weight classes. So there's real danger here, and Nakatani knows it. Like I said, I watched him spar in training camp. He trained really hard for this fight, sparred with some Mexican fighters, so I believe he is ready. But like you said, it is a different thing fighting at a new weight.
I think we got a little bit of a taste of what he might look like in that Nishida fight. Nishida was an inch taller than him. It was basically the first time we'd seen Nakatani have to look up even marginally at an opponent. And you saw him change things up a little bit technically, rolling underneath a little bit. Again, that Mexican schooling, right, with Rudy Hernandez came in handy in that fight.
Yeah, it did, and that was one of his best performances, I thought. Like you said, it was mean, and Hernandez is going to have a guy that's coming straight to him. He's going to be putting his head right in Nakatani's chest, so I think it's going to be great preparation, and he's going to have to win in impressive fashion to really keep building momentum for what is really the biggest fight in Japanese history.
Yeah, and one of the biggest fights really in modern boxing history,
Absolutely.
I would say. Two guys that by that point, I mean, that they could be, what, number 1 and number 5 pound for pound, depending on how those rankings shake out. Of course, Inoue taking on Alan Picasso in the main event on Saturday, and Inoue, again, looking to make another statement against Picasso. One thing you can always say about Inoue, and you can say the same thing about Nakatani, you don't have to worry about whether or not their fights are going to be exciting.
Yeah, Inoue's an action star, and I always had this different kind of feeling watching Inoue fight, like he's an urban legend almost. You know, sometimes you talk to casual sports fans and they have heard of the monster. I mean, this guy is an incredible finisher, an all-time finisher. He's mean, the uppercuts, the angles, and it is a real honor and treat to watch Inoue up close and watch him fight at ringside this Saturday, Corey.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think that Inoue is one of the most, maybe the most gifted offensive operator that I've ever seen. He's going to go down as a generational great, but again, this is why we fight the fights, because Alan Picasso has the opportunity to score a generational upset in this main event as well.
Yeah, and what I love here are the stakes. You know that Inoue and Nakatani are incredibly competitive. They know what's ahead. They both want to steal the show on Saturday, and whoever wins that fight, if they do meet next year, is going to go down as the greatest fighter in Japan history. Well, of this generation at least, not history, but maybe history.
So much on the line on Saturday as we take another look at what we have coming your way here from Riyadh. Once again, we're going to kick things off with Reito Tsutsumi taking on Leobardo Quintana. The exciting prospect Taiga Imanaga gets back in the ring against Eridson Garcia, the world-ranked Eridson Garcia. The amazing boy Kenshiro taking on Willie Garcia for the IBF Super Flyweight strap. And then, of course, the co-main event sees Junto Nakatani step up to 122 against Logan Hernandez. And the top of the bill is pound-for-pound superstar Naoya Inoue defending his undisputed super bantamweight crown against Alan Picasso. Well, me and Mike are off to hang our stockings on the fireplace, and you have the best present of all to look forward to tomorrow, as we'll be back here in the Global Theater for the official press conference for Ring 5 at Night of the Samurai, a festive feast of chat hosted by St. Edward Hearn himself. We'll see you then. Happy holidays, everyone.
don't miss the biggest nights in MMA. EFL is more than a fight.
It's all to play for, which is so exciting. These teams have to come in here and give it their all.
Have a real nice tempo. Goes baseline, watch out.
Oh, my!
Oh, baby!
All the way down the runway for a big-time throwdown.
That's a lot of fans out there.